Hello there, welcome to the Football Block. My name is Brandon. Today we are back with another episode of News Bits, another episode of the Weekend Roundup. It has been a while. We have had a large break here, obviously, with the Christmas break and New Year's, and then as the season came back, I was focused on making videos for the Asian Cup and the AFCON, but those tournaments have concluded. Two wonderful tournaments there. Feel free to check out all my videos on those two tournaments on the channel here, but now we are back. Full force. Club football is 100% back. We have the Champions League, of course, Europe's top 5 leagues. So let's get right back into it. As always, let's start off with the Premier League in England. We had some interesting results this weekend. We're going to start off on February 17th, which was Saturday. We're looking at Brentford hosting Liverpool. This match ended 4-1 for Liverpool. 3 of the 4 goals, in my opinion, were beautiful goals. We had a great finish from Darwin Núñez, and even better finish, in my opinion, from McAllister. And then Mohamed Salah coming off the bench, coming back from injury. Not coming off the bench, coming back from injury. I'm looking at the results here. He did come off the bench. But he got injured at the AFCON, and he had been out for a while. He came back, and he marked his return with a very nice goal. Liverpool was a little shaky at the back. They were very, very strong going forward, but they were a little shaky at the back. They conceded a goal to Ivan Toney, a bit of a silly goal to concede there, and then Gakpo finished it off with a very easy finish, though, to put the game to bed, to make it 4-1 to Liverpool there. Good result for them. But we had a upset here. We had Tottenham losing 2-1 to Wolverhampton. This was a game that I think it was a very open game. There was tons of chances for either team. It really could have gone either way. But that says more about Tottenham having a very poor display from a defensive point of view. They were missing a few players. They were missing both of their fullbacks, Udogie and Pedro Porro, who you can argue have probably been their best players this season overall. They were missing both of them, and then you can just really see it. The lack of cover that they had on the wings was very, very blatant, and as a result, they conceded 2 goals to Wolverhampton there, falling 2-1, which is not a result that Postecoglou would want. Elsewhere, we saw Arsenal with another huge win, this time putting Burnley out of their misery, scoring 5 goals past them, winning 5-0, following up their 6-0 smashing victory against West Ham last weekend. Great performance from Arsenal again. They seem to be hitting a really good run of form at a very important time of the season. The highlight matchup of Saturday, though, in England was Manchester City going up against Chelsea. This was a really interesting game to look at. As the game started off, Chelsea was the team in the driver's seat, which is really interesting considering that they've been having a relatively poor season by their high standards. They completely played City off the park in the first maybe 20-30 minutes. They should have had a goal from Jackson, but eventually they did score. Jackson did get the assist. Raheem Sterling scoring against his former club, coming back to haunt them there. But after that goal, City started to gain their ground. They started to, get a foothold in the match. They started to get more and more chances, and then towards the end of the match, in typical City fashion, it was pretty much all City. Eventually, they came knocking, and the door was eventually busted down after Rodri, of all people, the guy who consistently pops up with great goals from the midfield, scored a venomous volley, it took a deflection, but I think it was going in either way. Great, powerful finish from him to tie it 1-1. And after that, it looked like there was a push to score a winner, but City did not really have any realistic chances to break the deadlock after that equalizing goal. I think 1-1 is a very fair result considering how good Chelsea was in the first half. But this is a problem with Man City. They did not beat Chelsea here, and they have a very poor record against the Big Six in England this season, which is really troubling if they want to defend their title. If you just look at the results, they lost to United, they've lost to Liverpool. They've had some pretty poor performances in the biggest matches here. Also, if you look at the performances individually, Erling Haaland did not have a good game. He could not score for the life of him. He missed a whole host of chances there. So some troubling signs for City. Of course, if history repeats itself again, City will go into overdrive mode in just a month or two. But still, at the moment, it is not looking great for their title defense. And this season is wide open. You look at Tottenham, who were top of the table at one point, then they faltered a little bit. You had Arsenal, who kind of bottled their chances, but now they're in great form. Liverpool just lost to Arsenal not too long ago, but now they're back into the swing of things. Aston Villa was in the top four for a little bit, so it is very interesting at the top of the table in England. On to Sunday, there's one game that we're going to talk about here. Luton Town lost 2-1 at home to Manchester United. This was a very scrappy game. All three goals were pretty scrappy goals, but the highlight that we're going to talk about here is the performance from Rasmus Højlund. He scored both of the goals for United. Now, to be fair, the second goal that he scored was a bit of a lucky goal. It was more so Garnacho that had the great volley, which took deflection off of Højlund's head. But still, Højlund has been in amazing form over the past month or two. So very, very good signs for United in that regard. But still, there were some defensive flaws, some very clear defensive flaws. Luton Town came very close to equalizing at certain times. So it's a step in the right direction for United, but it is not all sunshine and rainbows just yet. With all those results, let's look at the table. We have Liverpool at top of the table with 57 points, and then only 2 points behind them we have Arsenal. And then in third, with another 2 points behind them, we have Manchester City, and then Aston Villa creeping into the top four on 49 points there. So, like I said, it's getting really, really close at the top of the table. It's anyone's for the taking. I said a few months ago that I think Liverpool might take it, and then I really solidified that decision after the whole, farewell for Jurgen Klopp, who said that he's going to leave at the end of the season. But it's definitely not set in stone. You look at their game against Arsenal not too long ago. So there is a very real chance for Arsenal as well. And then, of course, you can't count out City. But let's move on to La Liga. Let's move on to Spain. We had some big matchups this weekend. First game we're going to look at is Celta Vigo versus Barcelona. And this was a game that was kind of more the same from Barcelona. A very, very poor performance. Some individual players showed up and played well. Lamine Yamal, who has been Barcelona's best player over the past month or so, he got an assist, the opening goal from Lewandowski, which was actually a very, very good finish from Lewandowski. As a Barcelona fan myself, it's great to see him back in good goal-scoring form. But besides that one highlight there, it was a very laborious and boring performance from Barcelona. They did not create much. They looked a little shaky on the defense in the first half there. And then as the second half started, you know who scored the equalizing goal. Yet another goal against Barcelona. Iago Aspas, this guy who hasn't really been having the best season for Celta Vigo. But he shows up against Barcelona every single time. He scored a pretty nice goal here today and tied the match 1-1. Oscar Mingueza scored the equalizing goal, former Barcelona player there. Xavi decided to shift the formation a little bit, subbed on. He took off Vitor Roque, he put on Rafinha, put on Gundogan, and even then, it wasn't really looking like it was going to be a winner for Barcelona until they got a very, very lucky penalty. And funnily enough, Lewandowski stepped up and actually missed, but the goalkeeper jumped off his line, so they had to retake it, and Lewandowski scored, snatching a victory there. Very lucky 3 points from Barcelona. As a Barcelona fan, I'm not going to complain that they got 3 points from this game, but I can't lie and say that they probably didn't deserve it. Moving on to another team, on the opposite end of the spectrum, a team that is in amazing goal-scoring form, we have Atletico Madrid. They dropped 5 goals on Las Palmas, beating them 5-0. Now, if you don't watch La Liga a lot, or if you're just kind of a casual fan, you might look at this result and think, okay, this is, there's nothing much to look at here. Las Palmas is not the best team. But this season, Las Palmas has actually been pretty good. They are in the top half of the table. They were getting pretty close to the European spots at one point. So for Atletico Madrid to drop 5 goals on them is a wonderful, wonderful achievement here. Atletico Madrid played very well in this match. We had 2 goals from Angel Correa, 2 goals from Marcos Llorente, and then a beautiful finish from Memphis Depay. Really good and very necessary win for Atletico Madrid here. Elsewhere in La Liga, we had a 0-0 draw between Valencia and Sevilla. It just looked like both teams did not show up in this game. Sevilla was not able to capitalize upon their recent string of okay performances. Of course, they are having a terrible season so far. Valencia's been a bit of up and down, I would say, but they were not really able to muster up anything going forward, and this match ends 0-0, which in some sense kind of benefits Sevilla, considering it's not a loss, but they'll take anything they can get as they are actually trying to avoid relegation, considering how poor they've been this season. On to the 18th on Sunday, we had Rayo Vallecano against Real Madrid, the lesser of the two Madrid derbies here. And this was a game that Real Madrid dominated in the opening proceedings here. Real Madrid came off, obviously, 2 good wins in their last game, the win against Leipzig in the Champions League, and then their smashing 4-0 win over Girona to go top of the table, or to at least solidify their lead at the top of the table. But they scored the opening goal, pretty nice goal from Joselo, and they almost scored a second, but they gave away a silly penalty, and De Tomas stepped up and scored. And from that point on, it looked like Real Madrid kind of just didn't really have much left to give. There was a whole host of chances for Rayo Vallecano. Then as the second half really started to go on in the minutes, there was a whole host of changes from Real Madrid, and they had a few chances to score, but nothing that really, really troubled the keeper there. And this match finishes 1-1. And Real Madrid had an overall decent performance. I think the reason that they weren't able to win is mainly due to probably fatigue from those 2 important games that they had, but more so the injuries. And at the end of the match, it's interesting because Dani Carvajal got 2 yellow cards and got sent off. So yet another defender will not be available for Real Madrid in their next game here. So that is a cause for concern. Elsewhere, we had Real Sociedad with a last-minute winner to win 2-1 over Real Mallorca. This was a very important result for Real Sociedad, considering they lost to PSG at the midweek, and they are trying to climb their way up the La Liga table as well. They actually went down 1-0 in the 4th minute, and it wasn't until the 38th minute through Kubo that they scored an equalizer, and then at the very death of it, Mikel Merino scored a very nice header to win 2-1. Bit of a lucky result. Sociedad didn't play the best, but they'll take what they can get as they're trying to muster up any type of confidence to stage a comeback against PSG in the Champions League. Elsewhere, Real Betis was not able to break the deadlock. They tied 0-0 with Deportivo Alaves. This is not a good result for Real Betis, considering they are looking to crack into the top 4, and it is just not looking like they will do that this season. It hasn't been a bad season by any means, but this is a team that probably should be punching a lot higher than they really are. And this result is evidence of that. Now, on Monday, we had a very, very important game. We had Athletic Bilbao, who is just peeking into the top 4, going up against Girona, the former league leaders. And this was a match that I think kind of killed any form of a title race, as Athletic Bilbao came away with a 3-2 victory, a deserved 3-2 victory. Berenguer scored in the second minute, very nice finish underneath the goalkeeper, and then that kind of just set the tone for the rest of the game. Now, Girona did equalize, but then immediately after that, only a few minutes after that, Berenguer scored his second, and then Iñaki Williams scored a third to put the game to bed. Now, there was a late push for an equalizer. Eric Garcia did score a bit of a lucky header off a free kick, but it did not really look like Girona was seriously going to trouble Unai Simon in goal, minus one mistake from him there towards the very end. And Athletic Bilbao come away with a deserved win. And with that result, if you look at the table, you have Real Madrid on top. And despite the fact that they dropped 2 points today, they still have a commanding lead. They're top with 62 points. And then in second place, we have Girona with 56 points. Barcelona just behind them in third with 54 points. And then Atletico Madrid in fourth with 51 points, but Athletic Bilbao, like I said, just peeking into the top four with 49 points. Then there's a bit of a drop-off with Real Sociedad at 40 after that, and then Real Betis and Valencia and Las Palmas in that order. Now let's move on to Serie A in Italy. The first match we're going to look at here is Inter Milan's game against Salernitana on Friday the 16th. And earlier on in the season, Inter Milan beat Salernitana 4-0, and this match, at least on paper, was exactly the same. A 4-0 result for Inter Milan. In particular, that first half performance was utterly insane for Inter Milan. They played some of the best football you will see all season in Italy or just in Europe. They completely dominated and destroyed Salernitana's defense in that opening 45 right there. Marcus Thuram scored the opening goal in the 17th minute, only for Lautaro Martinez to score yet another goal. Only 2 minutes after that, then Denzel Dumfries made it 3 right before the halftime. And then Arnautovic would score a fourth all the way at the end of the second half. Very, very commanding performance from Inter Milan as they, really extend their lead at the top of the Serie A table. On Saturday, we had Napoli going up against Genoa in a game that would actually prove to be Mazzari's last game in charge. This was a performance that I thought was very poor from Napoli from a defensive point of view. They conceded first in the second half, despite having a host of chances in the first half, which they should have scored with. And it wasn't until a very, very late goal that equalized the match to save Napoli from sure defeat. Overall, a very lethargic, very boring performance from Napoli. And, it's just so sad seeing this team play this way, considering how electric they were last year, how dynamic and just exciting they were. Now, of course, it is expected. There's going to be a massive hangover from the great achievements that they had last year in winning the title. But if you're going to have a guy like Mazzari come in and play a completely different brand of football, the results have to follow, and it has not. So I understand why he was sacked. He wasn't sacked immediately after the match. He was sacked on Monday, but it's very understandable why it happened. Perhaps they could have given him some more time, but I don't think that Mazzari's vision was really going to take Napoli anywhere significant. Elsewhere, we had Hellas Verona going up against Juventus. Juventus trying desperately to get back into the title race. They still sit in second place, but the gap between them and Inter Milan grows wider as they could only muster up a 2-2 draw with Hellas Verona, with Verona actually scoring first. They played pretty well throughout this game going forward. Vlahovic did equalize, and he continues his good run of goal-scoring form. That being said, he should have had more than one goal in this game. There was a lot of chances that he missed. He wasn't the most clinical that he has been. He wasn't the most clinical as he could have been today. He missed, like I said, a decent amount of headers in particular. And then Verona capitalized on a rare mistake from Szczesny. You can criticize Szczesny. It was more so on the defense possibly, but they were able to grab the lead yet again, and they Juventus relied on a goal from Rabiot to tie the match. And they had some really close chances towards the end. Chiesa came off the bench and was very electric going down the wing, but it was not enough, and they could only be held to a 2-2 draw there. The last game we're going to look at on Saturday in Serie A was Atalanta, who came away with a 3-0 win over Sassuolo. They were a bit lucky in the first half. Sassuolo missed 2 penalties there, or a penalty that had to be retaken. Pasalic scored the opening goal. Koopmeier scored the second, with Bakker scoring the third. Good performance from Atalanta there. On Sunday, we had Lazio going up against Bologna in a very interesting match, considering Lazio had a momentous achievement in the midweek in the Champions League, beating Bayern Munich. But in this very same stadium, they could not follow that up with a second win here against Bologna. And it is interesting because in the first half, or at least most of the first half, Lazio was unplayable. They were just really opening up the defense. They were creating a whole host of chances. Immobile was playing really well as Isaacson. And they scored the opening goal. Those two players had a really good link-up play with Isaacson poking in the goal from the middle near the penalty spots. And all was great for Lazio. They looked to be riding off with yet another victory, but Provedel, with a rare mistake, gave the ball away, and Bologna equalized. And then in the second half, it looked like Lazio kind of just gave up. Perhaps they were very fatigued after that very, very crucial win that they had against Bayern. But Bologna really started to kick into gear. And Bologna has been a team that has been playing really, really well this season. They've been surprising a lot of people. Under the manager, Thiago Motta, they've been playing a really, really fun to watch style of football, very, very attractive brand of football. And with a very well put together goal, Xerxes scored in the 78th minute to put Bologna up 2-1, and they were able to hold on to that lead and surprisingly beat Lazio. We also had Frosinone going up against Roma, and this was a pretty routine win for Roma. Their superior talent showed through. 3-0 win, very professional win. A goal from Sardar Azmoun, which is good for him considering he has not been in the best of form for Roma. And then we had another shock in Serie A this Sunday with Monza winning 4-2 against AC Milan. This was a crazy game. Monza was the home team, but they started off on the front foot, actually gaining a 2-0 lead at the very end of the first half there. Now, a whole host of changes were made. A bunch of substitutes came on, and it looked like Pulisic was going to sponsor a comeback. He assisted a goal from Giroud in the 64th minute to grab one back, and then he himself scored a very nice goal. He cut inside and curled it into the top corner in the 88th minute. And it looked like, if anything, Pulisic was going to inspire Milan to go on and score a third to grab a comeback victory. But as they were caught up in those emotions, in those joyous emotions, they left themselves wide open on the counter, and Monza scored a third. And then it looked like Milan capitulated a little bit as they conceded a fourth. Great win for Monza. You can just look at the celebration from the players at the end there. This really meant a lot to them and to the club. And not a good result for AC Milan, who still sit in third, but they look to be a distant third there. If you look at the table overall, speaking of the table, like I said, you have Inter Milan top with 63 points, and then behind them with a 9-point gap is Juventus in second place with 54 points, and then AC Milan with 52 points in third, which goes to show that how detrimental that loss to Monza was. They really could have been creeping up into second place there. Atalanta, surprisingly, is in fourth place on 45 points. Tied on 45 points, but behind Atalanta with a inferior goal difference is actually Bologna. And then Roma sit in sixth on 41 points. Napoli, surprisingly, is down in ninth place, and Lazio is in eighth place with Fiorentina in seventh. But now let's move on to Germany. Let's move on to the Bundesliga. On Saturday, we had yet another win for Stuttgart. They are no longer in the title race, to be realistic, but with this win over Darmstadt here, and yet another goal from Girassi, who has been having such a great season, they look to be solidifying their spot in third place. Now, we also had Heidenheim going up against Bayer Leverkusen in a very, very important game, and Bayer Leverkusen was able to win 2-1. Professional performance from them, yet another goal from Frimpong and Adli. It got a little dicey there at the end, but still, Bayer Leverkusen was a better team, and most importantly, they got the 3 points as they are inching closer and closer to an unlikely Bundesliga title. We had Wolfsburg drawing 1-1 with Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund actually scored first. Füllkrug scored yet another goal, but Borussia Dortmund could not hold on to that slender lead as the match went on. They conceded a relatively late goal in the second half, and they could not muster up their composure to grab a winner, and the match finished 1-1. We had Leipzig going up against Borussia Mönchengladbach, who themselves have been not having a great season. Leipzig, on the other hand, has been having an okay season, subpar for their high standards these days, but not a terrible season by any means. Xavi Simons scored the opening goal, with Openda scoring the second goal. Very fitting, considering those two players have been by far Leipzig's best players this season. Then on Sunday, we had a crazy draw. 3-3 draw between Freiburg and Eintracht Frankfurt. Very, very fun game to watch. Kind of a typical Bundesliga draw there. Very, very fun game, just back and forth. Lots of goals, of course. But the highlight of the Bundesliga on Sunday was Bochum's game, where they were hosting Bayern Munich. Obviously, Bayern Munich needed to have a very good result here to back up their two devastating losses recently. Their 3-0 loss to Bayer Leverkusen last weekend in Bundesliga, as well as their 1-0 loss away to Lazio in the Champions League. All is not well for Thomas Tuchel's boys, and their results the run of form continued to get even worse for the Bavarian club. They did open the score with Musiala, and they had a bunch of chances here. It was looking like they were just going to, have a typical Bayern win where they're going to rack up the goals. But they left themselves open on the counter. Asano, the Japanese winger, equaled the score 1-1. And then only a few minutes later, poor defending on a quarter, saw Schlotterbeck score to win, or to put his team in the lead. Into the second half, Bayern really just didn't get going. You didn't really see that same amount of, aggression that they had going forward. And then a very, very silly mistake from Upamecano, where he elbowed the opposing player in the face and got a second yellow and got sent off, resulted in a penalty as well. And then the penalty was scored by Stoger, and Bochum went up 3-1. Now, Bayern did push for an equalizer. They were able to grab one back. Easy finish from Harry Kane. Leroy Sané almost scored to make it 3-3, but the goalkeeper for Bochum made a wonderful save. And the match finishes 3-2 with Bochum coming away with the win there. Thomas Tuchel came out after the match, and he was trying to defend his result, saying that 9 times out of 10, if they play this game 9 times more, Bayern Munich would win. And I can see his point there. Of course, especially in the first half, Bayern had a lot of chances, but that does not excuse the poor defending for all 3 of the goals. Obviously, the second goal, there was so much space on the wing. How was Asano able to slip in there unmarked? The goal from the corner from Schlotterbeck, no one was covering Schlotterbeck. He barely had the jump for that goal. And then, obviously, Upamecano with yet another crucial mistake in a crucial game here. Not a good look for him, not a good look for Thomas Tuchel or Bayern Munich as a whole. If we look at the table, Bayer Leverkusen is still top. They have an 8-point gap. Bayern Munich is in second place with 50 points. And then the aforementioned third place team is Stuttgart on 46, and then Borussia Dortmund is now in fourth with 41 points, and then RB Leipzig in fifth with 40 points, and then Eintracht Frankfurt very far behind in 5th place on 33 points. Now let's move on to the last league we're going to look at today. We have Ligue 1 in France. On Friday, we had a pretty big matchup, Lyon going up against Nice. Lyon was able to grab a 1-0 win. Very, very important result for them considering the poor season that they are having. They are inching their way back up the table, but Nice is in the top 3. They're one of the best teams in Ligue 1 this season. They were somewhat pushing PSG for the title. It looks like whatever inkling of a title race or title push that they had is kind of fallen away, unfortunately for them. And Lyon looks to have turned a leaf and looks like they are going in the right direction. Lille came away with a 3-0 win over Le Havre. I hope I'm pronouncing that. I don't speak French. Jonathan David scored a hat-trick, and he almost scored 4 goals, but he had a penalty saved. But still, great performance from Jonathan David and Lille overall. Nantes went up against PSG. PSG looking to continue on from their win at the midweek against Real Sociedad in the Champions League. They were held goalless in the first half, but they did score 2 goals in the second half. Goal from Lucas Hernandez and a penalty from Mbappe. Not the best performance from PSG overall, but they did what they had to do. They got the 3 points. On Sunday, Monaco lost to Toulouse. Yet another loss from Monaco. They've been popping up with these random losses here and there. They were just, it hasn't been that consistent of a season for Monaco, and this is a good result for Toulouse, though, considering that they were, so close to getting a result at the midweek against Benfica in the Europa League, but they were, I don't want to say robbed, but they were denied results with 2 penalties, one of those being very late in the match. So this is a good result for them. Elsewhere, we had Brest beating Marseille 1-0. Very close game there, very, very late goal, and that game was very important for Brest because now they are second in the table. Moving on to the table, let's look at that. PSG is top, of course, no surprise there. They are on 53 points, and like I said, Brest is in second place on 40 points. Just behind them with 1 point is Nice with 38 points, and then Lille is closing in on the top 3 as well on 38 points, and then Monaco in 5th on 38 points, and then Lens in 6th on 36 points. So, that has been my reaction to Europe's top 5 leagues, all the biggest matches here. Let me know what you thought of this weekend. Not a whole lot of huge matchups in terms of big teams facing off against each other, but some pretty important results, some good results for some smaller teams, obviously. You look at Rayo Vallecano tying 1-1 with Real Madrid, or of course the Bochum game. So there was some pretty cool upsets to see if you're the type of football fan that's always rooting for the underdog. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode, the first episode back after a while of the football or the weekend roundup. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Don't forget to follow the Football Bloc on social media. But I will see you guys later. Thank you very much for watching.